So, so I was looking, I had looked at the surveys you had sent me and in that observation survey,
Yeah.
but
I love the putting in the words, your confusion.
it's so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's like because I mean, you got to identify it first, but then you really have to put it to words in order to tackle it or
I
share it.
think, yeah. And I think often the identification is intuitive, not
Right.
verbal.
Yep.
You feel discomfort, you feel like something, like suddenly you feel disinterested or disenchanted and you can't explain why, but you're feeling it. I mean, I can say this is not just it's not just in the learning process. I think in life, there are so many times when you feel, also there's an awareness of discomfort. Something is not sitting right. But then even to that discomfort to rise to the level of consciousness, to call it discomfort is the second step. And the third step would be to put it into words. And those are so many different steps. And to have the right words for the discomfort to be coded into, right?
I'm very curious. Could it end up in a drawing or a diagram for someone?
I think it would be even better, actually.
Well, I mean, because I think some people think in words. I mean, I watch you light up with words,
Yeah.
but I've also watched like theater people, and they just have the spatial component to
Visual
them.
learner. So it's whether you're a visual learner, a verbal learner, a spatial learner. Yeah.
Yeah, or even kinetic learner. An athlete. Then they're not going to put in the words. They just know how to.
They just know how to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Then how to beat you and make you look like a fool.
Yeah. You don't even call it discomfort. I think to actually call it discomfort, to have the awareness to identify it as discomfort is the first step.
Yeah.
So
so the first thing is just this kind of, it's a feeling. It's not really, it's something's off, a premonition. It's a gut. The fascinating thing, everyone has an element of discomfort.
Something's off. I mean, in classrooms, it will show up as a student saying, "Oh, this is so hard."
Yeah.
Or this is so difficult, or I don't get it, which is often I think that as my failing, not theirs, because that means I wasn't able to clarify, or there are certain foundational steps that I failed to identify in the student that are necessary for them to understand whatever it is that I'm teaching, right? So it's, when we're talking about observation, it's not just observation of material, but also my students, like expressions, micro expressions, size, all that size are huge. Often I've seen a blank look or a sigh is actually one of the most productive moments.
Oh, huge.
And then I can do something about it. I can actually immediately backtrack and know. And it only requires one student to feel that way in a class of 15, because I will actually stop class and go all the way back. Mm-hmm. Be like, okay, let's back solve in a way.
Right. That's the part I love about teaching is you have to be so immersed. I mean, just like when I was a research scientist, you're so immersed in all the little nuances because they're all clues. Teaching is like that, but even more amazing because you don't have the luxury of much time. You have to read the micro confusion, the micro
confusion, the micro discomfort.
Yeah.
The slight irritation that rises up in students, and that they're even uncomfortable to articulate, because there's always a hierarchy between teachers and students. Yeah. There is, and you would want it not to be that way, but it's like, can I ask? But also the feeling of I'm being observed by all my other peers. What if they understand it? And now I will be declaring my confusion when everybody got it, when usually there, if one person is not getting it, chances are there are at least 5.
Oh, at least, yes. If you tutor someone you also teach, you really learn their expressions. And so now sometimes I'm gonna have to backtrack, as much. I'm anticipating them, and that gives me clues earlier on, so then I can realize they're off, so I can work with other people too at the same moment.
Like full-on teaching doesn't begin until 3 weeks in, 3.5 weeks in. You have to know, each student's names. You also have to know very well sort of the repository of specific expressions that are particular to each student, right?
Yep.
And so that means you're creating a data set. It's like you have to accumulate enough data to be able to respond to it.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, I feel like most of the full-on teaching begins around late September and for the fall semester, or late January, early February for the spring semester.
Yeah, that's the beauty of if you have a year-long course with the same students.
Mm-hmm.
January, when you start the second semester, you're familiar with everyone, they're familiar with you. And I totally agree. It's the teacher student, but also the student teacher. If you set the groundwork, just what you were saying earlier, that instead of being talked at, you can talk with your teacher, and that opens up a new avenue of trust, so that you can share those more vulnerable, I don't get it moments, and articulate them easier.
Yeah.